Good evening. Ask George, last one of the tournament. You're coming home, aren't you?
Imminently.
From your lovely hotel room behind us.
I've been very lucky. I've had the mother of all upgrades. Thank you to the Lalit in Kolkata. It's crazy good, actually. I've been very lucky. Yeah, this is the city where I once shared a windowless room with a rat. Uh, and honestly, I went a bit mad. So yeah, coming up in the world. Have we started?
We've started. Yeah,
Okay,
sorry, get
cool.
that in. Right.
No.
Start from the top. Occidental Touriste asks, given how much England lean on Ben Stokes, should we read anything into him only opting for a one-year contract, or is it purely based on injury-induced uncertainty?
No, he was offered three, right? He was offered a 3-year deal and he turned it down. So I see it as quite encouraging. Yeah, one, that they must have the medical data to think he's worth three, hopefully.
Hmm.
And two, that he's so confident in his recovery that he didn't feel the need for that security. So his argument is that they're going to have a different MOU. It gets a bit dull. As soon as I mention the words MOU, people's eyes will glows over. But he'll have had advice that the MOU will change in a year, so he doesn't particularly know what he's signing. He's very confident, as he should be, in his own abilities, and he'll have another look at it then. But I think, in terms of the injuries, we read that as encouraging.
So Tom Wright asks on Stokes as well. Do England's final two group games show the importance of prolonged exposure to the ODI format and how badly Stokes was missed at the start?
Both those things. I don't think they can do much about missing Stokes at the start. He did injure himself in the gym. I was a bit cynical when that happened about whether it was a guise for the knee problem that's been there forever. But no, it wasn't. And so there was a genuine hip injury. That happens, doesn't it? But the other stuff, does the improved performance... Look, we've got to be a wee bit careful because Pakistan are Pakistan, and they were... they have moments when they're not very good and moments when they're brilliant. And they were classic Pakistan today, weren't they? At times they were awful, and so they're not the strongest team. So let's not read too much into it. But England looked a lot better. And yes, funnily enough, when you train and get into the rhythm of playing 50 over cricket, and I've had some time to work on the skills and the thinking that goes into it, yeah, they're better. And absolutely, it shows what they could have been. I mean, this is exactly what my piece is about. It's frustrating in a way because I think that had they prepared better, they could have done a lot better in this tournament. Were they good enough to beat India? Don't really see that, if I'm honest. India look, like a special team. They look like the best team in the world right now, and that's fine. You don't mind not winning, but you want to do yourself justice, and England haven't done themselves justice. And they might have done themselves better, given a better account of themselves if they were better prepared. I'm sure that's the case.
And of course, they won the three games. They won the toss and batted four times. They batted four times, won three, opted to field, I think, four times themselves and lost all four. So I think, as you said in your piece, if they'd sort of worked out a game plan, they say their best team, who knows?
Yeah. They were guessing. I mean, they made 3 changes to the side, 2 games in succession. That is not a good sign.
Sushan asks, what is the biggest positive to come from this campaign? Which feels like quite a good question in the context of all the general sort of despondency of the last few weeks.
Well, I've got 2 for you. I mean, it's a good question and one I haven't got a suitably good answer for, but 2 for you. One, in 2015, rock bottom provided foundations for what happened afterwards. So the disappointment of this, the embarrassment of this, could fuel a rebuilding and a recovery. It could and it should. I get the impression, it's hard to tell because, obviously I'm here, that it hasn't cut through massively in the UK. I don't get the impression people are talking about it in the same way they did the Ashes, but I might be wrong. So that's one thing, it can be foundation for a new start. Secondly, I think it maybe makes us reappraise once again how good they were in 2019. The history of England at World Cups in the last quarter of a century is grim. It's a Thomas Hardy line about our life being a joy being a brief interlude and a general drama of pain. I often think like that about England's World Cup campaigns. Generally they're very, very bad, and it makes 19 stand out even more. And that that might be the only time that happens in our lifetimes. So that's something to appreciate as well, about how good that team was. I don't think Jofra Archer is appreciated as much as he should be. Special cricketer comes along. Maybe he was a shooting star of a cricketer. I really don't know. I hear that there's been more pain in that elbow. That's not a great sign. But just for a little while there, he sure as hell was good. And all those other people, Liam Plunkett was a brilliant cricketer. Jason Roy was a brilliant cricketer. And I don't know that they're all remembered quite as well as they should be. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are shouting at their screens right now. They damn well are. And that's probably right. There are a lot of English cricketers, English cricket lovers who get it. But I hope that everyone does. I was just really struck, when Jason Roy was left out of this squad, having been told he was coming. I was struck by the negativity towards him on Twitter. And I've got no, Jason Roy bond or insight or anything. But I thought it was really bloody unfair. He was amazing in 2019. So anyway, the second thing is maybe it makes us appreciate how well they did all the more.
And speaking of that, the great Tom Brown has been in touch asking if Adil Rashid's efforts have gone somewhat under the radar. Played when he was unwell, ended up with 15 wickets at 27. And of course, he was one who probably wasn't quite at his best in 2019. But I mean, I don't think I agree with that. I think Rashid has been the shining light by an extraordinary distance for England in this tournament.
Fantastic cricketer. God, he was good today, wasn't he?
Just great to watch.
Just beautiful in his figures. What's he end up with? 2 for 54 or something?
Nothing like what he deserved, yeah.
No, I mean, look back the googly. Just it's crazy good. Anyway, firstly, you're quite right. The great Tom Brown. Tom Brown's the man who invented Saka. It's such a public-hearted fool, I say that fondly, that he hasn't made any money from it. He's done it all for the good of the game, for the good of cricket. I love that about him. And he points out something that's really valuable there. He does, that Adil Rashid has gone a bit under the radar. And on the quiet, he's been absolutely brilliant. And he was, there were a couple of things, even in that South Africa game, that showed there was some spirits in that dressing room. Reece Topley coming back on and bowling. He didn't need to, and he got murdered. I had dinner with him a couple of days later, and he had his hands had been taped together, and he had an injection here. He couldn't feel a thing. So all he could do was bowl length, and length is the last thing you can bowl at the death.
It's a Heinrich classic.
I mean, when he went off, I can't remember. He bowled 3 overs. What did he have? 1 for 16 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
And the last 5 overs went for 80. Yeah. So, but those guys didn't have to come back on. Adil didn't have to keep going. And there was a lot of talk at the time that something had gone on in the camp, but I still don't think it did. They just didn't play very well. I don't think they fell out. Yes, so I think that's a really good point. On the quiet, Adil Rashid's had a really, really good World Cup, and he's been a very, very good cricketer for a long time. And I think he might be the one in this team, maybe with the exception of Stokes, which is the most irreplaceable.
Yeah, just on that, it feels as well with Rashid that I don't know. It feels like he goes under the radar because he is such a shoe-in, isn't he? He toys with guys, and he's so consistent that you almost plug him in for 10 overs and know what you're going to get, which is mad to say of an English leg spinner, isn't it? That you know, yes. And even madder to say that there are guys there are very good players, guys like Babar Azam, Marcus Stoinis, who still don't quite pick him after however many years in international cricket. There aren't many leggies like that.
No, I do think that people have seen a lot of him, and they do play him better than they used to, and that's absolutely fine. I also think that he's better when he plays. I wish he still played first-class cricket, but it's his call. He got better in the T20 World Cup. He had a very, very good, was it the semi-final against India?
India, yeah.
When he got Sky Yadav, it was probably the only time he failed in the tournament, maybe. He's better when he bowls, and he doesn't bowl enough, in my view.
So he'll be 39 in 4 years' time.
What
do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I don't know. I think he's got a chance. And I think he's so special that he's one that you would try and give every opportunity. I don't see who the guys are who are banging down the door to replace him.
I'm not sure I'd
I
want
know
to be the guy
you.
who replaces him. Because such a such a there's so much to live up to because it's not just the player replacing it's replacing a leg spinner in English cricket. Never, there's not a great
Do you
deal
know
of
something
patience to
else?
get that, is there?
I think I did his first class debut. He played for Yorkshire against
Yeah, Warwickshire,
because it
I
was
think it was.
Warwickshire. And I reckon it's something like 2006, and he replaced Darren Lehman in the
Mm,
Yorkshire side as a batter at number 6 who bowled. Now he
yeah,
took lots of wickets. Second innings, I think.
yeah.
Actually, anyway, but he was a batter, and
Mm,
I actually said to Darren Goff this summer, if you want him to play again, say you're going to bat him at 6. The guy could really bat. He came in at 11. Anyway, so I think there are lots of ways that a few more years can be eked out of him, but I don't think it's not playing with him. I think it's more about
yeah.
playing.
Mm,
And I hope he plays lots, and he's special. And yeah, that's a really good point by Tom Brown,
mm.
who's in Australia and watching in the middle of the
So,
night, which shows you, because I think Marie is his partner is playing out in Australia.
very lastly, Scott Wilson asked, what does it say about world cricket that 3 out of the 4 semi-finalists in a subcontinental World Cup and not from the subcontinent?
Does it say anything?
I don't know. I mean, everyone plays everyone, and in very different conditions. So
I mean,
maybe
it's not like
maybe
the
does I don't
rich
think it's as much.
countries
I don't think
have
it's as
done
much as
best, is
might have
it?
done if these are all, very similar services to what it's better. But even no, I don't think it does say a great deal.
I don't think.
Says India are very
Look,
good.
I would be very interested at hearing the rest of his sort of hypothesis there, but because it might be something I haven't understood and appreciated. But I don't think it says masses. It's not as if it's just the rich countries doing well. Obviously, in Australia and India have done well, but you wouldn't say South Africa are blessed with huge resources, financially anyway, huge natural resources. Although it's incredible how they keep just producing fast bowlers, isn't it? Bearing in mind Anrik Nortje is not here, who
Yeah,
might have been the fastest bowler of the
quickest
tournament,
lot.
one of the fastest two. Anyway, it's just that's a nation that still produces a lot of cricketers. And New Zealand, a tiny country, well, a tiny population anyway.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know that we read masses into that, do we? Afghanistan have had a pretty good World Cup, haven't
Yeah,
they? Um,
Sri Lanka and Bangladesh have
yeah,
been. I think Bangladesh particularly been quite disappointing. Sri Lanka obviously have gone through the mill
yes.
with injuries and
Wimperdesh, we're calling them. That will probably go down very badly, won't it? But
very
Sri
lastly,
Lanka Sri Lanka have played poorly as well. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Go
although
on.
have had the Sri Lanka have obviously started without Hasaranga, lost their captain. I think they've gone through 18 players, I think.
Yeah, they've had awful
Um,
injury issues.
very lastly, Jack Rule asks, given the fact that we still have another 8 days until the final and it's beginning to drag, is this World Cup far too long and does the format need reviewing before the next one? And of course, you broke the fact that might be happening in any case,
Yeah, it
some kind of
might.
review.
Of course, there's going to be a review. I promise you this: there is a conversation about whether the broadcasters still want a 50-over tournament. I don't know what the result's going to be. I'm not saying they're going to get rid of it. If they do get rid of the 50-over format, it seems to me you have another problem in that you then have a T20 World Cup and what the ODI World Cup's played over T20. I mean, how does that work? And a Champions Trophy too. So you have a T20 tournament, global tournament every year. Well, then it becomes a bit meaningless. I would think that became a bit samey, and the difference is sellable. I do wonder whether the 40 over idea has legs. It's got no traction at the moment. I don't want to pretend it does,
Should do
but
that. Best format.
but I could understand. If you sat down with people and explained it, I could understand how over the weeks it could grow in popularity. But has it dragged? I'm not the person to ask because I'm a cricket geek and I really love it. I get the impression it hasn't worked in England, but England has stunk the place out. Now, that's not the tournament's fault. But personally, I prefer if it was 16 teams, 4 groups of 4. You get more involvement, there'd be more peril, and it would be quicker as well, which some people would prefer. We know why it isn't, because they did that, and there was no Pakistan-India game, and the broadcasters didn't like that too. I don't know. I think you've got to put cricket first, and the broadcasters they look too short term. And actually, they would see eventually that if you have a better cricketing tournament, it would be more marketable in the long term. But they're so short-sighted, and everything is predicated on the bonus of the salespeople. I genuinely mean this, that you end up with these sorts of decisions where you've just got to have the Pakistan-India game. So has it dragged? I don't know. It's not my preferred format, but I don't want to... I loved switching on the TV and seeing cricket. That's one of the reasons I enjoy India.
It's one of the great things about all World Cups, isn't it? Football World Cup as well. You know, the idea of even the notion of 3 games a day, you know, for the whole group. So it doesn't matter who's playing, does it? You turn on and
well, equally, I think
you
can see. I don't know if you can see my TV, which is the size of flats I've had previously. That I'll be able to turn it on in a minute. I have to write another piece on Matthew Mott, and I think the Women's Big Bash is on.
Yeah,
I love that. So is that wrong? I don't know. The heart of cricket beats loudest in India. It really does. That's not to say it's been a perfect tournament by any means. There are all sorts of problems with this tournament. The air quality is a joke. You know, I think that's an issue. I think we should be talking about it. It's not very healthy. But, you know, it's not very healthy for all the poor people who have to live in it. You know, we can't just look at it from that perspective. But there are all sorts of issues with it. But whether it has dragged, I don't know. I don't think I'm the person to ask. But, you know, Jack asked sensible questions. Wasn't there one from Don Topley?
There was one from Don Topley.
What did Don Topley ask? Right, Don and I were travelling together.
It's right at the bottom of my list, so I didn't see it. Here we go.
Go on.
One of these semi-finals is at Eden Gardens. Seeing the surface again in Kolkata, is it a concern to play such an important game on a tired, slow back-first surface?
No.
I mean, particularly the first few overs of this game, that looked like a very relevant question.
It's, you know, if you come to Asia, you're going to play on Asian wickets. Is that what you mean? I mean, because it's probably a better surface than the one we have for the final at Lord's. God, they got away with that, didn't they? You know, if it hadn't been for the last 2 hours, it was a shocker of a game. So just got to say, so I was travelling with Don, and poor old Don had some bad luck with Reece, and it was very shame. Don is fantastic to travel with. He just finds enthusiasm. So when we were trying to get into the ground for the first game in wherever it was, Ahmedabad, the police were basically, they was literally saying, go away. They were shouting, just go away. And then the next gate, they were like, you can come in, but you can't have your laptop. And I was in danger of not being the best version of myself. Can I put it like that? Yeah. And so we made a game of it where we had to see who could be the most polite. With Rory Dollard as well from the Press Association. I think it's fair to say he lost. He was very, very unable. But Donald, he's fantastic. He was complimenting the police officers on their shiny shoes, on the bushiness of their moustache, on their lustrous hair. It made it fun, and he was a lot of fun to travel with. I know all his opinions on the 100 are wrong, but he's a very nice man, and I missed traveling with him these last couple of weeks since he went home. But I've got up in the world in terms of my room since he went. Christ.
Well, we should probably leave it there and let you get to
I must thank everyone for the questions, because you know, it'd be a lonesome old recording process if you didn't send any questions. So genuinely, always very grateful, and they're nearly always really clever and sensible, and so much better than the answers. And I know that some people comment because Rhiannon tells me sometimes on YouTube, but I don't look at YouTube. But if you ever want to have a conversation, I'm on Twitter, and I only do Twitter. Don't do YouTube at all, sorry. But thank you so much, because as I say, they've been really, really, really good quality questions, and that's genuinely appreciated. Thank you.